So we are live. So good morning, afternoon, evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are thrilled to have you join us today for an exciting session as we welcome you to our week-long celebration of success, innovation, and inspiration. I am Danish Nasir, your host for today's event. As we embark on the third day of this event, we have more exciting session planned for the next 2 days. This week-long webinar series is dedicated and to discussing our customer success stories. If you are an agency owner or a small business, this is your chance to learn from the expert and draw inspiration from their remarkable journeys. I am excited to introduce our esteemed guest. Our guest of honor today is John, the founder of Delta Strategic Marketing. Delta Strategic Marketing is a North New Jersey based website design and digital marketing agency specializing in cost effective custom built website for small businesses. Without a further ado, I would like you, John, to introduce yourself and let us know about your business.
Okay, great. Yes. So my name is John Tully. My business was started in 2009 and I own Delta Strategic Marketing. It's a boutique digital marketing agency where we build, host and manage websites for small businesses. I am based in New Jersey, northern New Jersey. As you see, most of my clients are pretty close to me. So there's a lot of industry, there's a lot of business in New Jersey, and there's plenty of business in the area. So in 2009, I started my own business. The company name was different then. I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do. And I came up with a business plan and a marketing plan. And unfortunately, it went nowhere. So I pivoted the company. I sent myself back to school and took a formal web design program. And in 2011, I got my first website for a paying customer. I started presenting classes fairly early on. So these were classes for SCORE is the business training arm of the government, and it's free to people. So I started presenting classes on internet marketing and websites for other small businesses. In 2015, I completed a very successful, very important part of my business journey, a program run through Rutgers Business School, and they helped me with a rebrand. So I rebranded from the old company name as Delta Strategic Marketing. I'm not presenting classes any longer for SCORE, but I am still presenting classes for a local adult school. I still do classes on internet marketing and Facebook for business and WordPress and things like that. And another milestone in my business, which we can talk about more later, is that in 2020, my recurring income overtook my project income. So this is a snapshot of what my business does. So nearly 60% of the business is in websites. So that's website building, website hosting, website management, and occasionally doing troubleshooting on other people's websites. I have an SEO program that I offer. I also manage and set up Google ad programs for my clients. I do a little bit of content marketing, not as much as I once did. And then there are some other ancillary services that I put in there. This gives you an idea of the companies and the type of companies and the type of businesses that I work with. It's quite widespread. I haven't really gone for a vertical as far as this is concerned. I've much more gone for size of organizations and access to business owners, things like that over the time. So my skews the number of people that that my businesses employ is fairly skewed towards the lower end. A lot of other solos, smaller businesses, and a few larger organizations, but mainly skewed towards the smaller end. So consequently, the best referrals for me are situations where I can talk directly to the owner. I like working with startups, solos, and contractors. I'm actually in the process of, I've just proposed a website to a brand new startup in the life sciences industry. And it's really important that I can help them out early on with a lot of the background stuff that they don't really know. What's important, what isn't important, how they should frame things, how they shouldn't. We've all made mistakes, and I think it's important that I try and help them avoid some of those mistakes. I want to work for companies that want to grow their business and that recognize the value of their time, and that they understand that really nothing is free, and that making things take time. This is not an instantaneous kind of program. So some challenges that I think face other probably small web agencies. I think this is probably always the biggest one, is finding new clients. So my solution is very, very straightforward. I'm a huge believer in networking face-to-face, networking in chambers of commerce, networking groups. Getting out there is very, very important. And by doing that, with those personal connections that you make, it means that the sales process starts as an introduction that's warm as opposed to cold. It's not a cold call. It's not a, who is this person? I've never heard of them. What can they, how can I possibly help them? How can I work with them? The second challenge, again, that probably many startup agencies face, is smoothing out the project highs to lows. Everything was kind of going from one project to another, but in between there'd be times when I wouldn't have any work. And the solution here is to pursue recurring revenue opportunities all the time. Every time you have a new client, you want to think towards, how can this help me with my recurring revenue? And that may be just as simple as charging for what you have previously offered for free. People don't always realize what's gone into the process, and some of that is worth for them to pay for it. And another way to kind of help with recurring income is, coming up with a different payment plan. My original payment plan for years was a third at signing the contract, a third at approval of the design, and a third at launch. And that's fine, but it still can be, a chunk of money for people. So, one of the challenges that I was facing was, how do I get more people in the door? The price wasn't necessarily a factor, but it was paying for it that became an issue. So I came up with a 12-month plan that spreads the cost over 12 months. And, the people just get charged to their credit card for a much lower amount, but it's spread over 12 months. I really didn't know whether that was going to be a viable thing. But the very first person that I offered it to took me up on it. And I still have clients today that make that as a selection. So it helps spread out their cost, but it also helps with my cash flow because I know I've got money coming in now for 12 months. So one of the examples that, I think many web agencies leave behind is hosting. When I first started the business, I used to give away hosting for free. I used to give a year's worth of hosting to somebody who signed up as a client. The problem with that was that at the end of the year, people didn't necessarily understand why they had to pay for something that they had for free. So, if it was free, why was I now charging for it? So I now offer essentially 3 different levels of hosting and educate people from the very first meeting as to how important it is to get the hosting right. Okay. Pick the correct one for them and, what they need. And, going forward, it's going to be a much easier process. And the other thing is that I actually don't call it hosting. I mean, it's obviously, it is hosting, but I offer care plans. I don't offer hosting. The care plan includes hosting, but it includes other things. It includes website management and support. So if you can persuade people early on in the process that, they obviously need hosting, but roll it into something else that includes things that they need, it's a much easier track to follow. And you get nice messages like this, okay? Clients who have an issue, worried about what might go on, and you put their mind at ease. It takes the burden off their shoulders by providing a service that helps them, stay afloat, keep the business going. So I'm going to talk about a success story, a recent success story that incorporates a couple of different aspects. So the Feast of San Gennaro, people who know what that is, there's actually feasts around the world, but this is the biggest of the feasts. This takes place in New York in September. In Little Italy, if people know where that is. And these were the problems that I inherited. The original website was very basic, and they had no way of incorporating a calendar of events. It was such a basic website. It was really difficult. You could change it every year, but it was really not a great scene. Okay. And it was also on shared hosting with, one of the big guys, GoDaddy. That was cheap, but had problems. The main issue is that the feast is only on for 10 days during the year. So, for 10 and a half months, 11 months, there's very, very little activity on the website. So a shared hosting environment for 10 and a half months is fine, and they can get away with it. But as you can see, during the weeks, the 10 days of the festival, the traffic increases exponentially. And what would happen with the shared hosting was that they'd get into the busy part of the festival and the website would crash because it just couldn't cope with the
peak traffic.
Most of the traffic comes from New York, obviously. Most of the traffic goes to the main page and the event calendars. that seems to make sense. And there's a spike. That spike you see is the first weekend of the festival. It's when people want to find out what's going on, and the old system just could not cope with that number of page views, number of visitors.
Yeah.
So we changed the website. We rebuilt the website and incorporated event calendar that now shows upcoming events live on the homepage, and has a separate page where people can go and actually see it in calendar form, whatever form they like. And we moved over to Cloudways and DigitalOcean, a New York, New Jersey-based server, which I think makes a big difference for these guys, knowing that it's local for local sake. It's not a big website, so we don't need much in the terms of space, but the bandwidth is awesome. So, we can cope with that spike without a problem. And I actually last year even got alerted to say that we were approaching the bandwidth limit. But I know that I have the opportunity to scale if I needed it. Fortunately, we only hit the 80% marker with only a couple of days of the festival left. But it makes it easier for me to manage it if I can see exactly how the load on the server is going and whether we possibly need to scale. It's an interesting thing. It's very, very weather dependent.
Yes.
So if the weather is good, then they get more people more people going to the festival. If the weather is bad or it has bad weather days, then the attendance drops.
You are right. Like we also face like queries during the BFCM, or you can say holiday seasons, when the traffic goes up and the sites goes down. So that's happening with the shared hosting, and people are like looking for the solutions. Like what would be the solution for this? Like my site is crashed. So yeah, you are right. So I can see like this success story is a path for those who are using like, who are believing like cheap hosting is a good solution, but sometimes it would be a nightmare for you when your site start getting traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. So the festival starts tomorrow. So if you're in New York, if you're in the area, please go. It starts tomorrow and runs for 10 days until the following weekend. I don't know if this will work, but we'll.
Yeah, we can see. Okay, so it is happening in the month of September, like the next week? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're around, go. It will be a lot of fun. There's a lot of great food, a lot of bands, a lot of entertainment. So that's my story. That's my success story. So what I would say is, what I've learned is that honestly, it's never too early to get involved. If you're interested in doing this, I would say, get in as early as you can. I had two regrets when I started the business. One is that I chose a very generic business name that really didn't help me when I was starting the business. So changing over to Delta Strategic Marketing that gives people a clearer idea of what I do was very important. And the second regret was that I hadn't started the business 10 years earlier. I'm really like doing what I do. I enjoy doing what I do. I'm having a great time. I'm making money. It would be even better if I'd started earlier. So if you're thinking about it, I would recommend doing it. it can be very insular. I work from home. It can be, you can get really bogged down in the minutiae of building websites and doing maintenance. It's very, very important to get out of your comfort zone sometimes and meet people, network and meet people. You'll get more leads, better prospects that way than you will just, sitting in an office. Pursue recurring income. I've tried many things over the years, different services. I would say, try everything. Try it. What worked for me may not work for you. What works for you may be something that I can't do. So try everything. Keep what works, but be very, very brutal with yourself and quickly discard what doesn't work. You can have things, but if you're not making money from them, really they're just a hobby, and there's no point in pursuing that. I would say don't try and scale, especially your employee count, too fast. This has problems that go beyond just managing somebody else. Now you're responsible for their livelihood. In our industry, I'm sure it's the same at Cloudways. I'm sure it's the same for other agencies. Unfortunately, employees come and go on a regular basis, and you can invest a lot of time and money into an employee or a salesperson or anything like that. And, they leave, and now you're back to square one, or you may be in a worse spot. Staying as a solo has worked for me. I've had contractors in the past. I've had salespeople in the past. Now, I've brought a lot of that back under my own roof. And honestly, it's more profitable for me now than it ever was. So I would say don't rush into growing the business for business sake. That would be my thing. And questions. If anybody has questions, that's
So John, yes, I have a question. John, you have an extensive background in various roles within the small businesses. So could you share some of the key insights you have gained over the year about like what make small businesses successful in their marketing efforts?
yeah. So I take a lot of time sitting down with prospects way before I ever do a proposal for them. And I think it's very important for a couple of reasons. I make them tell me what they do. And the reason I do that is that people get very wrapped up in what they do, but they don't have the opportunity. They don't really explain it very well to other people. And if they can't explain it to me, then how can I explain it via a website? Okay. So I challenge them almost, tell me what you do in, one sentence, or tell me what you do so that a 6-year-old could understand. And, that puts a lot of, that may cause them some anxiety. But my process is that unless you can do that early on, it's very, very difficult to then explain to other people. So I go through an onboarding questionnaire that runs to 30 or 40 questions, trying to get really nitty gritty what it is that they do, who their clients are, who their ideal clients are, and then building from there. Honestly, that's much more important than just the design or how pretty the website looks. It's being able to convey that message and their story That's really, really important. And sometimes you really have to dig to get that, but it's worth the effort. It's worth the effort for you
Yeah.
as a web guy, but it's really worth the effort for the client, because they may not have thought about it before. The example I use is, I built a website years ago now for an electrician, and I also ran some Google ads for him. He thought of himself as an electrical contractor, and that's fine. That's what his profession is. But nobody searches for an electrical contractor. They know they're searching for an electrician. So the education in bringing him around to say, you think you know what you do, but this is what actually people think about you, and this is what you actually do in their eyes. That's a very, very important process. And he went from getting no leads to getting leads every day once we changed the focus from electrical contractor to electrician. It's simple things like that.
Cool insights. And the website that you shared, the festival website, is it the project that attracted you towards Cloudways, or some time in back? What attracted you towards Cloudways when you find Cloudways?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Could you say it again, please?
Yeah. So I am asking, like, as you told me about your festival website, the success story. So you use Cloudways server uh, uh, to scale up your website. So it was the first time you interacted with Cloudways, or you know about Cloudways, and you were frequently using the Cloudways.
Yeah, I can't remember now. It's one of the early ones. It's one of the
Yeah.
earlier ones with Cloudways. I found that people have different requirements. Okay, so
Hmm.
theirs was very specific. I knew that we needed to move away from the box of shared service to something that was easily scalable but had built-in bandwidth that we knew we could work with.
Yeah.
Other clients have security concerns, so I work with a non-profit that helps women and teenagers with domestic violence issues. They had a concern that if they were on a shared server, that they could get attacked by bad websites on the shared server.
Yeah.
So now they have their own micro server on DigitalOcean, and it just contains their websites. So there's no interaction between their websites and any other website, and they wanted that added security. So, and some people, honestly, they go for it for speed. The having the micro, the droplet server, whatever you want to call it, is just so much faster. So it's worth it for them, for their websites to just pop, and that really helps. So I find there's different reasons, and that's part of the educational process, explaining to people what the differences are to them. So
Good to know about that. And my last question, as I was searching your profile and do some my research work around delta marketing and around your profile. So I found that you have a certificate in a webmaster in 2009. So can you tell us about your journey to earning your webmaster certificate in 2009, and how did this certificate impact your approach to web development and digital marketing?
yeah, so interesting story, really. So my web experience goes back to the early 90s. I built the first website for the company I was working for at the time,
Mhm.
and it was it was hand coded in HTML, and it was do it
Yeah.
yourself, very much so. Um, Over the years, I then dabbled in websites for the people that I worked for, and my last employed job was as the marketing manager for an engineering company where I built out the new website as part of my job. When I ended up on my own and I had this idea and it didn't go anywhere, I just kind of realized that I probably needed something a bit more formal than my self-guided journey through building websites. I was very fortunate. My local community college did um, a summer long program of everything you needed to know. So it started with basic HTML um, classes, went through JavaScript and PHP and how to use Photoshop and Illustrator to help you
Mm.
through that process. And then at the end, you get the piece of paper, and that's nice. But just the fact that you can, I mean, I was a startup myself then.
Yeah.
So just the fact that you can say to someone, look, I understand the background of, what's going on the website, your website. So, that was really, really important. As I got started, that was hugely important. And it's still part of my story. I mean, it's not so important now, but it's still part of the story because I think it gives people just that warm, fuzzy feeling that, I just didn't start doing this yesterday, right? It's not something that I just decided to do overnight.
Mm.
It's 10 years now. Everything has
Yeah.
changed since then, but
Yeah.
the fundamentals of knowing just even knowing what PHP is, you know, I don't program, I do not get involved, but I have an understanding, and that's really important.
Mm.
It allows people to do what they do best, and I can help them otherwise. So
Uh, Great, John. Thank you so much for such an informative session today. We are done with our questions, and the slides were really helpful. We understand how you build up your company and how you grow your company and how much you are helping your customers with your care plans and with your all the knowledge that you have in the marketing and in the web development. So thank you so much for this informative session. I really appreciate that you took a time from your busy schedule. It really means a lot. Thanks to everyone who joined us today for this session.
thank you, guys.
We have three more sessions lined up for tomorrow and a day after tomorrow as well. So stay tuned and keep learning from these masters who run their businesses very well, and they are inspiration for you for your own businesses. So goodbye to everyone, and thanks again to John for this
Thank you,
such
guys.
an
Thank you very
insightful
much.
interview. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye now.